women in history I never heard of and wouldn't be surprised if you haven't either. Today, let's talk about Olivia Salamanca. Olivia Salamanca was born in 1889 in Cavite, Philippines. She was the second woman in that country to earn a medical degree and the first to volunteer to put her life on the line for an invisible enemy. As a child, Olivia was brilliant. Several sources said that her dad considered her his most intelligent child. Because he was a man of means and not completely backward, he made sure that she had the best education available to girls at the time. At Cavite High School, she was admired for her ability to recite poems in both Spanish and English. She was a great actor. And unlike the other kids, she preferred her light reading to include things like Plato and Homer. No, not the modeling compound for kids. Nor a Simpson. Suffice to say, they're not light reading. Anyway, for her entire life, Olivia wanted to be always busy. So when her older sister was taking piano lessons, Olivia decided she wanted to play too. But she didn't have patience to wait for the teacher to find time for her, so she taught herself. No, seriously. Her sister's teacher came to the house one day, and he was ecstatic because he found Olivia proficiently playing her sister's music. So on the spot, he offered to teach her too. He was further thrilled when he found out that she was a perfectionist. She wouldn't move on to a new piece until she could play the current one with 0 errors. In 1905, under the Pensionado Act, Olivia took and passed an exam administered by the government. And with 36 other Filipino students, she was one of 3 girls. Imagine that. At least it was 3, right? Anyway, she was given a scholarship to study in the United States. Oh, and by the way, she was only 16. Off to Minnesota, where she finished high school. She thought she wanted to be a teacher, but the universe had other plans for Olivia. And by the time she entered college, she knew she wanted to be a doctor. So in 1906, she was enrolled at the Women's Medical College in Philadelphia. In her second year, she won an award for anatomy and physiology. She toured medical facilities all along the East Coast, from Boston to DC. She was also the editor of The Filipino, a monthly publication for, you guessed it, Filipino students. Right, I forgot to mention. She was also a brilliant writer. And sources said that if she'd had the chance, she may have become one of the greatest writers of the Philippines. Well, let's jump ahead to 1910. She finished her medical degree in only 4 years. Graduated with straight A's. And just to round it out, she took and passed the U.S. Civil Services exam. But she wanted to help her people. So on July 24th, 1910, just a couple weeks after her 21st birthday, and after a month of riding the high seas, she was back in Cavite, where people greeted her with a literal party that she initially didn't think could possibly be for her. Oh, right, I forgot to mention that too. She was also humble. Now, also at that time, tuberculosis was a massively horrible disease with no known cure. It was called the White Plague because people became so pale as they became more ill. So, 5 days after her welcome home, Olivia became one of the charter members and the first elected secretary of the Philippine Anti-Tuberculosis Society. She even hand-wrote their Articles of Incorporation. She toured facilities, took notes, and all around contributed to research. Near the end of 1910, Olivia herself was diagnosed with tuberculosis. She knew exactly what that meant, but she ignored it. And even if she wasn't feeling 100%, she kept her emotions and her illness off her face. And her bedside manner stayed in place. She wrote once that someone like her was meant to keep their life and mind busy, even if they're sick. Oh, and Olivia recorded her experiences in her diary. If you're curious, yeah, it's available online. So in a November 1910 entry, she recorded long coughing spells. She said she'd had them before, but that day they were debilitating. And for one of the very few times, she didn't go to work. Eventually, though, she was right back at it, tending and offering comfort to those suffering. But by mid-1911, her health was steadily declining. She was reassigned to a hospital in the mountains. You know, the fresh air would do her good. And again, she stayed busy, hanging out with friends, studying French, sewing and crocheting, and receiving guests nearly every day, Filipino and American guests. But it wasn't all roses and rainbows. By August of 1911, she wrote, "I have been alone in my battle for life." She felt that people, including American doctors and her family, were just dismissing her. She further wrote, "Do they really think that I am happy to have my success, accomplishment, work, and life stolen? Do they not see my heartache, despair at being so handicapped? For her, the limitations brought on by tuberculosis were almost worse than the disease itself. But even in her darkest hours, she, quote, did not allow my ailments to interfere with my intellectual activities. Another entry in her diary shows us what she thought of herself. She didn't consider herself attractive or vivacious, like other women her age. But she did reluctantly admit people seemed to love being around her, if only for a minute. She was grateful for that because it meant that she could get close and help. Just a month later, in an entry dated September 4th, 1911, she rejoiced. She was to be the first person in the Philippines to receive tuberculin. The German scientist who'd invented it, he touted it as a cure for tuberculosis. But nobody really knew for sure, and I'm not sure he had proof. Olivia volunteered because she knew she would take the most detailed notes, medical professional and all, which would contribute to research progressing more quickly. She said, quote, if it is effective, I would feel as if I had rendered a public service to humanity. If it failed, she would have, quote, saved others from its dangers. By June of 1912, she was at Philippine General Hospital. There, she was treated with kindness instead of judgment. And she continued having an active life. She traveled, even attended a party celebrating her birthday on July 1st that year. But in an entry dated February 27th, 1913, Olivia wrote that she was, quote, seriously ill. She had a medical consultation. A priest was called. People were seriously alarmed. So she was given the cure. Another entry dated April 13th of 1913 contained her gratitude for receiving a check from a friend. There are no more entries in her diary. Olivia Salamanca passed away on July 11th, 1913, just a few days after her 24th birthday. Years later, tuberculin did prove useful as a means of diagnosing tuberculosis. But Mary, why didn't they just use antibiotics? Well, antibiotics weren't even used medically until 1940, 27 years too late for Olivia. Today, Olivia Salamanca is honored for her contributions and her ultimate sacrifice. Just a couple examples. There's a historical marker at the Philippine Women's Medical Association at the Plaza Olivia Salamanca in Manila. And there's the Dr. Olivia Salamanca Memorial District Hospital in Cavite City. Okay, something I have to say because I love when the women I talk about intersect. I found that Fe del Mundo, another woman doctor from the Philippines who made massive contributions, gave a speech in honor of Olivia. Okay, I can't end this yet because there is something I refuse to leave out, despite that I found repeatedly that it was treated as little more than a footnote to her story. Olivia was among the very first feminists in the Philippines. She fought for women's right to vote, equality, because heaven fucking forbid. Hey, I'm the salty historian for a reason, okay? And there is something else worth noting. Several of her diary entries record her experiences with and discussed for Americans. Americans who were making their living in the Philippines. Okay, let me just say this. Americans, as usual, and in every place, disrespected and disregarded local culture at every fucking turn. They insulted Filipinos, questioned their ability to be intelligent. And that's just a couple of things. And yeah, they expected Filipinos to just love that. You're not any more surprised than I am, right? Anyway, we owe a great debt to Olivia and other people like her. Because of those people, tuberculosis isn't feared like it was back then. It isn't automatically a diagnosis of the end of your life. Although in at least one particular country, I'm pretty sure that's about to change.